Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session for this Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. It is 10:07 a.m. My name is Ty Mentzer, Vice Chair of the Board. Our Chair, Commissioner Mejia, is excused today. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. County Manager Miro Chavez to his left, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell to my right. For virtual public attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. The topic for this work session, which will run till 11 a.m., is public defense data department briefing. We have our Director of Public Defense, Patrick O'Connor. I'll let him introduce his team. He's got several folks with him. And Director O'Connor.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Happy to be here. Patrick O'Connor, Director of Thurston County Public Defense. I brought my team with me today, minus one of our mayors this morning and unable to respond, so I'll allow them to introduce themselves. I'll start with Robin to my left.
I'm Robin Martin. I'm the supervising attorney for our juvenile and civil unit.
To my right, Kevin.
Good morning, I'm Kevin Griffin, I'm the adult felony supervisor.
And to Kevin's right.
Good morning, my name is Mia Pagnotta and I'm the executive assistant.
And then Jose joining us virtually, live from Alaska.
Good morning, Jose Vargas. I'm the fiscal manager for the department.
Thank you, Commissioners, for taking the time. We've got an hour this morning. Hope to keep this conversation going throughout the briefing, so feel free to ask any questions as things come up. I think we have more than enough time to cover what I intended to cover, and appreciate the PowerPoint being brought up now, and hopefully we can follow along as we go through. The topics I'm going to cover today are sort of a relook at last year, starting with you.
You're inviting us to interrupt you if you want.
Yes, interrupt. So
I'm just wondering, which one of these handouts are we actually using?
Commissioner, you should be at the one on your left hand.
I've got one here and I've got one here. They both have the same cover page.
I think you're covered twice. We provided you a copy.
Well, this one's got a lot more information in it. I want to use the one I'm going to be keeping, that's all.
Commissioner, can you use the one that has single page printing?
Yeah, it should be.
One page. Okay, use it.
So the double-sided, put that aside and use the other one, please.
Okay. Good enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was pretty simple. Complicated for me, but simple for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we'll cover today is look back at our budget from 2022. We'll go over invoice distribution and some of the things that we've been working on for a number of years. I won't spend too much time on that, but I think it's important to highlight a couple takeaways there. We'll take a look at the number of clients that we represent in our office last year. And then my management team will be lifting up their team, some of the challenges and successes from their perspective and their disciplines within our office from last year. We'll look at some things that we're looking forward to this year, and then an open forum for any questions that you may have. Of course, questions along the way. So we'll dive right in unless there's any preliminary matter you'd like to address. Great, so we will start off with a review and budget. And obviously I have Jose, our fiscal manager, online here. If the board had any specific questions, but I'll lift up a couple highlights. You'll see in the top left-hand box there is the bottom line, which is we, once again, in 2022 remitted general fund dollars back to the county, a little over $1 million. So in the aggregate of the past 3 years, and the pandemic 2021 and 22, we're in the ballpark of a remittance of around $2 million from the public defender's budget. And we'll talk a little bit more about the reasons for that. But at the same time, highlighting that's where we ended up at the end of last year. You see our revenues to the right. I won't go into too much detail there, but I would like to point out in the budget notes, you'll see an increase in a couple areas and a couple of expenses. And for background, in 2022, our criminal justice system was finally really able to open back up to trial work. And with opening back up into trial work, we're in 2020, 2021, we went in the aggregate a little over 14 months in our criminal justice system in total of not being able to hold criminal trials. And so when we do criminal trial work, there are expenses associated with public defense in doing trial work, experts, investigations, a whole host of expenses. So what you see in the budget note there is last year we had an uptick in some expenses with our contract attorneys, some more cases, about 4% up from the previous year. And then below that, you'll see our professional services expenditures up 29%. Now, up 29% compared to 2021. Again, we're doing more trial work and there are more expenses associated with that. Obviously, throughout this entire 3-year period of the pandemic, we've seen system-wide less cases, less trials, and overall less expenses. That's not to say the work's been any easier, and I know my team will speak to some of those challenges despite overall numbers being down. But going into this year, we are planning, again, hopefully, fingers crossed, that criminal trials will continue. And I think when I give this presentation at the beginning of 2024, we'll see 2 green arrows in both these numbers next year, going up in expenses. So one revenue note, you see about $150,000 from the state of Washington to continue to fund our Blake team and State v. Blake litigation that you all are very familiar with. We have a 3-person team that's been working, relieving folks of those convictions. We're over 1,000 people served at this point. That funding does end at the end of this year, and I'll talk about that later on in the presentation here. But that's really all I wanted to cover, the highlights here of budget. If there's any questions about our budget. Yes, Commissioner.
How are you doing on Blake? Are we making headway? We're gonna have that under control? Is it gonna be gone soon, or?
Well, how are we doing? I've been very impressed with the work that we've done as a team. We've relieved over about 1,000 people of their criminal convictions. There was a large percentage of individuals when the decision came down that were under sentence at the Department of Corrections that needed to be resentenced. We're all but down to about 40 individuals. So we've made tremendous headway in getting those individuals resentenced as they're eligible to be resentenced. We still have thousands of people in this community, Commissioner Edwards, to get to that are eligible for Blake vacations. 1492, which is a Blake bill that's in front of the legislature right now, hopefully might address some of those Blake vacation pathways going forward, but we'll see what they do.
That's all you got from, on the Blake activity was 150?
No, we got more than that. We got enough funding for Blake to staff 2 full-time attorney positions.
Okay, so you did get adequate
We
funding.
did get very adequate funding. And I'll say this, Commissioner, I'm very proud of Thurston County for taking advantage of those funding opportunities. Some counties in the state of Washington did not, but I felt it was imperative for our community to have staff dedicated to this work, and the other attorneys just don't have the bandwidth to handle that. But we prioritized it. I hope that revenue will continue, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the presentation of what my communications with possible funding for the Blake team to be extended over the next couple of years. But we got more money than that.
You said you did 1,000 vacations and there's only 40 left, but then you said there's thousands
So
of people.
we have to look at Blake in buckets, right? So there's probably, this is very anecdotal, but I know there's at least 14,000 convictions for individuals in this community since 1991 that are Blake eligible to have their vacations done. The individuals that we prioritized in the priority bucket were those individuals that were incarcerated in the Department of Corrections that were entitled to be resentenced to a lower sentence after the decision. So those are kind of 2 big, there's still a huge bucket of individuals that are entitled to relief. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, but you said something about there's 40. And that's the
We
people
still have
left out of
40
that.
about 40 individuals left in the Department of Corrections, and these are individuals with complex litigation cases. So
Out of that
individuals that have very, very lengthy sentence, and their sentences are a little bit complicated. And the law after the Blake decision has been very fluid. We've had a lot of court of appeals decisions coming down after the Blake decision, interpreting who's eligible and who's not. So this last bucket of individuals falls into the more complex litigation Blake cases.
And like when we first heard about Blake, there was the prosecutors were saying, well, you know, we can't just make agreed orders and everything. Like if there were certain, I can't remember the categories, but there were certain kinds of cases where deals were made, they might not have made that deal. I mean, they wanted to kind of like like for a certain stratum of cases, they wanted to kind of expand the work that would be necessary to go back and and how did that all kind of shake out? I mean,
It's still being shaken out. 1492 does address one of those issues on whether or not a new litigation, a new trial can come as a result of an individual who's incarcerated requesting to be resentenced and whether or not they can be retried. Some of those issues are still being litigated and differently around the state. I'll just, it's
now you have
still
the
in flux.
specter of the juvenile point thing.
So, that is a whole nother conversation. That bill is still live if that occurs. But part of my thought process here is if we can get Blake funding extended, that there may be a conversation to have with the extension of those funds, should that bill pass, that they're eligible to do juvenile resentencing work as well. I haven't
Still be
had
an
that
effort on
conversation
that
yet.
particular bill to, I think the bill has good components, in
Yes.
my opinion. But it's the retroactive element that really brings a huge impact to counties.
If I had to take a guess on that bill right now, I think I think we'll see the portion of that bill move forward that gets us in line with other states around the country, which zeroes out juvenile points. You leave your juvenile points behind when you're a juvenile, and your adult points are your adult points. I think that has a lot of traction. I think the retroactivity, the retroactiveness of that bill, the impact of workloads, may or may not get enough
Council
traction.
has concerns on that retroactive because it's not necessarily about it's just the impact of how we're gonna go about and go retroactively is gonna cost a lot of money. And
I'm sure would you open the Pandora's box of Blake? I'm curious now about the 13,000 people that aren't sitting in jail or whatever, but they're eligible.
Right.
They're just out in the community and they have a criminal record, they got a certain, I mean, do we have any sense of like, how many of those folks even want to pursue something like this at this point? Like, do we know what the rate of like having to engage is gonna be versus people that are like, it's not worth my trouble to do
So
it?
I don't have data on that, but what I can say is, we have done as much marketing to this point as we can. We need more marketing. So since this is live stream, please contact Thurston County Public Defenders, our office. We have you can go to our brand new website, which launched today at Thurston County Public Defense. We have a whole Blake page on there that provides individuals in this community instruction on how to contact our office for eligibility and if they're eligible to have that conviction vacated. We all have an internal process now. We have a lot of clients that we're working with right now that are eligible. So we have referral processes in place, but it's a lot of folks. And a lot of folks don't know that they're eligible, or they're nervous, or their last court experience wasn't great and they really would prefer not to come back.
even the LFOs, we have now seen, as we were expecting at some point, a huge LFO reimbursement.
Yes.
We have not seen it.
But I wonder, I'm curious if you have a backlog of people who are not in that priority bucket that are waiting for their opportunity. And that's one of the reasons we haven't seen a hit on the LFO reimbursements that we
Yeah,
had anticipated.
it's tricky, Robin, it's tricky because the folks that reach out to us and contact us, we're on top of that. We have good contact information. And when we're forming representations, when our attorneys are filing a notice of appearance, acting on their behalf, they're consenting to that representation. One of the challenges, and that's something that 1492 addresses, is it puts the onus on the prosecuting attorney's office to do those motions in orders to vacate when they're not the attorney of record representing them. When we make a motion in order to vacate, that attorney is appearing on their behalf. And as I've told our attorneys, the basic question the Bar Association will have is, did you take a legal action on behalf of a client and ever talk to them? And so we know we have all these people that are eligible, but I can't endorse them being the moving party and filing a notice of appearance on their behalf without any contact. So I think that's one of the things that the bill's trying to remedy. But we would, again, encourage anybody to contact our office, because if you do and we have that information and you're eligible, we can serve them. And so I'm excited about that.
And you're probably right in the statement that you made. Some individuals, they just want done and over. Why going back to their history and go
A lot
back
of
to
folks
court
aren't,
and everything.
don't know they're eligible, but there's a lot of word of mouth, and I won't name the business, but, you know, I was at a local business not too long ago, and some of the individuals that worked in this local business, were former clients of mine, and they were really excited to see me. They contacted our office. They were all Blake eligible. They all got their vacations, and they were like, I hope you don't mind. We're telling all our friends. I said, please keep telling all your friends. So we're seeing a good impact locally. I'm gonna turn back to my slides before I run out of time, if that's okay, but.
I do have one question specifically about the budget.
Okay.
You've reverted $1 million, which is so much better than needing $1 million. But I'm wondering if the bulk of that is due to vacancy savings?
So there's a percentage of that, good point. When I looked at that slide this morning, Your Honor, Your Honor, I always do that in these meetings.
They just promoted you, Robin.
We can follow up with you on that, Robin.
Great.
And get, certainly a percentage of that is gonna be salary savings, as I'll touch upon. We were not immune in 2022 to the current marketplace.
Right.
So, yes, ma'am. Turning to our next slides, I'll be brief here, but I think it's always important to remember our history as we move forward. We set out with a very specific plan back in 2018 to address some major operational issues in our office. So I just want to highlight, if you look at the graph on the right, these are the dollars that we spent on public defense in a current fiscal year, that the expenses were encumbered, as opposed to what was encumbered in the prior fiscal year, but that we paid out of that year. And I'll just draw your attention to two numbers. You can see on the, again, the right-hand slide in 2018, the fiscal year dollar amount on the left there was $964,000. So again, that's what we paid that year. And then if you look to the column to the right, $626,000, those were expenses that we paid in 2018 that were for cases from 2017. So if you look at the difference in the fiscal year 2018, that red chart to the right there, and then if you look at last year, so look at the prior fiscal year 2022 in the far right-hand column, that little orange graph, you'll see a difference there of about $300,000. So what we've continued to improve upon is capturing real expenses for the department in the year in which the expenses were created, and reducing the amount of what I termed rollover debt from previous fiscal years. So to me, that's been very successful for our department to really help manage our budget, which again is a unique variable budget, but I won't dive into much more details there, but I just wanted to highlight that's almost twice the amount of reduction from when we made those changes back in 2018. And I'll move on to the next slide unless you had any questions about that. Again, this is another informational slide for you, but again, it sort of shows some of the things that we've really worked on. This is specifically with our professional services. So we have a lot of professional services for public defense, interpreters, investigators, transcribers, investigations, a whole host of services that we have to ethically provide for our clients and our representations at cost. Again, note that in 2020 and 2021, if you look at the right-hand chart, if you look at 2020 and 2021, you can really see the impact of the pandemic and not having trial work. You can see those dollar amounts and how they're real outliers to 2019 and 2018 and how they compare to 2022. So that sort of gives you the perspective that in 2020 and 2021, without trial work, we just had less expenses overall in our professional services as well. So for a visual of what the pandemic has impacted on our professional service budget.
So Patrick, remind me, you have one or two in-house investigators?
We have two in-house investigators, yes. So this is a mix of professional services from our office, experts, and sometimes we have capacity with we have two investigators for 28 lawyers, and so.
This does not include panel
It
attorneys.
doesn't include panel attorneys, so that's the
That's
other
on the
expense
first
there,
slide.
correct. So this is a mix of our professional service expenses from staff and our entire private sector that our panel attorneys working with us. If there's any questions about that, I'm mindful of the time. I want to give my colleagues here time and then time for you guys. So the next slide is a distribution of case assignments. So these are cases in which the court has appointed us to represent. The distinguishers there are whether or not in-house, meaning our staff representing clients, conflict, meaning conflict attorneys that have to take a case because of a legal conflict of interest. Again, little trip down history lane. Some of the changes that we tried to address in 2018 with the huge support of this board to make an investment in public defense, increasing the number of our FTEs and our in-house attorneys with the goal of not sending cases out of our office if we didn't have a conflict of interest, keeping with the theme that if you're indigent in our community and you have a right to counsel and you're eligible for appointment, no matter what it is, but you're eligible for our office, that we have enough resources to represent you. I'll quickly turn to, if you look at the top graph there, Superior Court, our most expensive, most variable cost court. If you look to the last box there of overage, you'll see that 0 is the highlighted number there in 2022. We did not send one client out of our office last year if they did not have a conflict. We had enough attorneys in our office to represent everybody.
Okay.
So if you compare that to 2018, when we were sending out 90 folks, again, those are 90 clients as of last year that we were able to represent. District Court right below there, a challenging year for District Court on a variety of levels. Happy to provide more information outside this meeting. So that number's a little bit higher, but that was due to some challenges and some uniqueness to that court. And our juvenile court, we only sent out 5 youth in 2022. So compared to, if you look at the juvenile statistics and the district court statistics, that's the far right column, again, the overage column. If you look at district court in 2018, we sent out 670 clients that we didn't have a conflict of interest. Last year, only 166, again, a unique year. That should be lower and will be lower in the future. And look at our juvenile numbers. In 2018, 268 youth were sent out to conflict counsel as compared to last year, 5. Again, that's the investment you made in us for our team. So I really appreciate that. Unless you have any other questions, I'm gonna keep rolling to try to get through everything. So our next slide is just an opportunity for you to hear more about the work being done by our fantastic leaders here today and our managers. I'll pick up, again, our district court supervising attorneys in court this morning, but you know, these are the folks that lead their teams, that do the work in court, supporting teams in a very challenging environment. And so I'm gonna turn it over to them and start with Robin to my left to talk about the civil and juvenile unit that she manages. And feel free, I'm sure they'll invite any questions you have about the work that they do. And so Robin.
So hopefully you have noticed that our unit is now called the Civil and Juvenile Unit. It used to be the Juvenile and Dependency Unit, but we do much more than that now. We have officially, as of today, taken all of the civil work to which clients are entitled to appointed counsel into our office. We have 2 full-time ITA in-house attorneys now. We are no longer having contract attorneys handle any of our ITA practice. And with that new attorney position, we also have gained a new legal assistant position. So our unit now consists of 5 attorneys and 3 legal support staff, 2 legal assistants and 1 paralegal. It was a very challenging transition over the months of January and February as we were transitioning our new ITA attorney out of the Superior Court unit. And our currently existing ITA attorney having 3 jury trials over the course of about a month and a half. But we managed to arrange coverage for all of the calendars that we were required to appear on, and I think everybody has been pleased with the smooth transition from working with the contract attorneys to working solely with attorneys in our office. I am continuing to provide representation to parents in dependency and termination cases. We have 2 attorneys doing juvenile offender work, and I think that is primarily responsible for the drastic reduction in overage cases being assigned to panel attorneys over the last couple of years. Also, there continues to be a lower caseload of juvenile offense work than there was prior to the pandemic. We are experiencing some challenges with juvenile cases being filed quite late. Some cases are being filed a year later, a year and a half later. And what we know for youth is that consequences need to be administered swiftly and certainly. And it is proving a challenge, not just, I think, for the prosecuting attorney to prove their cases, but for our clients and their families to be in a situation where they're in court dealing with a situation that happened many, many months ago. And trying to adjudicate those cases and if necessary, impose consequences for our youth that are meaningful after such a long time. What else? We have one attorney representing parents on the child support enforcement cases, and that has been going very smoothly. No issues there. We are also, one of our attorneys is representing our youth involved in our civil cases, truancies, child in need of services, and at-risk youth cases. Our probation department has recently taken over the diversion process for our juvenile offender cases. That has been moved out of community youth services and into juvenile court administration. So we've been dealing with some challenges there and noticing some gaps in due process for our youth that were not identified. But now that the diversion program is going through our juvenile probation department, we are working together to fill those gaps and make sure that youth have proper access to an attorney in making a decision to enter into diversion, and that if they are, if their diversion is being terminated or being asked to be terminated, that they are provided with a proper hearing notice and an opportunity to respond. So I think that will be a big improvement, and we're hoping to be able to divert more youth into diversion rather than have them go through the court process. We've also moved into Building 7. That houses our juvenile and civil unit as well as the Blake team. Very, very happy to have the space, very happy to leave some more space for our main office, and very much enjoying our working environment there.
Anybody, questions for Robin? Or?
I have a quick question. I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
No. It could take me all day.
You have the rank.
You mentioned that you're overseeing the IPA court.
ITA, yes.
Anyway, how are we doing on funding for that? Are we getting adequate funding to make that happen?
Yeah, we're fully funded for supporting 2 attorney positions and 1 legal assistant position. We're in a
We're in a transition period.
process.
Well, yeah, but when I say fully funded, not from the county, I'm thinking maybe we're getting some other money in there to,
We're totally covered by the BHASO.
yeah, okay.
So,
good
and but we are in a transition period, as you may have heard in your other role on the BHASO board. We were notified in late December that our current method of reimbursement is the court and the clerk, the public defense and the prosecutor's office all have individual contracts with the BHASO where we send them our actual costs and they pay us back. However, according to state law, we should be as a county, we should be billing the BHASO on a per case rate. And that was the phone call I got from Mark Friedman in December. We're working together to come up with what that case rate would be for the county. I convened a group with representatives from Superior Court, the clerk, public defense, the prosecutor. Those are the county stakeholders, if you will. And we're working with financial services to come up with a per case rate. And the goal is to change the method of billing beginning in April. So we'll be bringing a revised contract for the Board of County Commissioners sometime in, well, geez, it's March now. So the goal may be the 1st of May, but we are working toward a new contract, a county-wide contract with the BHASO. Now, whereas today we're billing for all our costs, according to state law, we cannot include indirect costs in this Kate race.
Can't charge with power or water.
Or
Correct.
building, or there are things that are going to be excluded by state law. So we're not going to be recovering our entire cost, but we're gonna set the rate at an amount. It's also gotta be based on actuals from prior years. We're trying to see if it makes sense, given the, abnormality of the pandemic. And I'm having frequent conversations with Mark Friedman, but we're trying to get to what is the reimbursement rate that will still cover the county's costs.
But fundamentally,
State
there is an issue because eventually even the BHO is gonna have issues covering all the costs because of the number of
Yes.
cases that are going up. And the
Yeah.
governor's budget has $9 million to address the ITA. It's not enough across the state, but at least it's an attempt.
And I guess a follow-up to that would be, are you finding that most of those folks are from out of the area that need assistance? Are they local? What's the breakdown?
There are quite a few. I don't have a percentage right now off the top of my head, but there are quite a few. And there are continuing to be new facilities being built in our county.
That's gonna translate to more customers from out of the area, isn't
Yes,
it?
it
To
is.
more
And it's-
cases. So, and that's the argument that we have made to our legislators because it's as part of our legislative agenda supporting the ITA.
And we are experiencing challenges, all of us, the court, the clerk's office, with facilities not giving us enough notice of when they are going to start opening and taking clients, for us to incorporate them into our practice. So that's something that all of us on the ITA team have been trying to communicate with the community, that
You said that maybe you can't give an answer for that now, but I think that if knowing that information, 80% of them are from elsewhere, 90%, 20%, I
we do
don't care
track,
what it is,
we do
would
track that.
help us in our negotiations with the state on that funding mechanism.
That is tracked, Commissioner, so that data can be provided to the board.
So a quick question for you, Robin. When you're making the point, and I totally agree with you, the quicker the cases are filed on juveniles, it's really have more effective, outcome, whatever the outcome that is. And you said that right now is between 1 and 1.5 years that you have to wait. Is that really the
Not all
result?
of them.
No, but is that a result of the pandemic? And all of us have been, dealing with the backlog, and we're trying to address the backlog at a system-wide, really. Is that perhaps the result of the pandemic and the backlog?
That is part of my understanding. There also has been quite a bit of turnover over the last couple of years in the prosecuting attorney's office with who they have assigned to the juvenile unit. My understanding right now is that the supervisor of the juvenile work is also supervising the district court unit in Superior Court. I think resources are stretched. And we are continuing to advocate for if you're gonna file the cases, file them, send them to us so
It's
that we can
difficult to
get.
find attorneys, and we have, the board allocated over $1 million in dealing with the backlog. And for a long time, we just couldn't find attorneys from both sides. So finally, I see a rate of expenditure that I'm gonna convene another meeting just to make sure that we run over the allocated amount, but
That just came up this morning too, so I look forward to that. I'm gonna move it forward, so if that's okay, I'm not gonna get through everything, which is fine. I'll highlight a couple things. Ms. Collada is our senior attorney. She can't be here this morning for district court, but, just to circle back to our second investigator works exclusively for that team. It's been a phenomenal investment, helping that team provide outstanding representation. Speaking of ARPA fund, 2 of those positions we've hired, and so you'll see those expenses from public defense. It's been tremendous, 1 attorney and 1 legal assistant to help support that team with a tremendous district court backlog. And so that's been a great investment. Circling back to the investment that this board made last year in increasing our training budget, that's something I'll talk about department-wide, but to that team with very young attorneys having opportunities to be able to send those young attorneys to trainings has been really pivotal, and it's also a great retention mechanism for us as well. And then the district court starting speedy trial again at the end of last year. So the suspension of speedy trial, criminal justice does not work without a speedy trial. And so the Supreme Court removed that provision in their emergency order, and our district court, of course, followed that order, and we started speedy trial again just at the end of last year. And so speedy trial exists. I think we will start to see at some point here later this year, our cases hopefully get back down to a more reasonable caseload, because they have not been reasonable, if I'm being candid. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin, our Superior Court. Yes?
I got a question for you. That's okay. The numbers in district court probably are gonna be dropping because of the state, new state laws on traffic stops and can or can't, and
Well, we'll see. Yeah, I think, so we,
I would hope you would be tracking that if that happens, so that we can make some adjustments maybe next year to address that.
I hope so. I think if the 05 DUI law passes, it might be offset by the 05 DUIs. But,
if the
yeah,
right turn
But it-
law passes,
but I do think, Commissioner, we are still dealing with a tremendous backlog of cases in our district court from 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021, and 2022, or well over 2,000 cases that are still pending. So I hope there's relief legislatively for less cases, but
Isn't,
to be determined.
I haven't tracked the last 2 weeks, but isn't the Blake fix law gonna criminalize drug possession as a misdemeanor, which
Correct.
will
That's probably gonna pass, so that's another,
make a lot more.
that's
volume
another
of district court cases.
input, potentially to our district court system, so. Okay, I wanted to give Kevin some space here to, lift up his team. Kevin Griffith, our senior, attorney for Superior Court.
Good morning, everyone. I actually have a lot of notes, but I'm gonna cut half of it, just watching the time. There's 2 main goals. I worked on this last year, and they're the same goals I've been working on the whole time in this role. One is to handle as many adult felony cases as we can in-house. You've probably heard from our office for years that we think we do better work and we do it for less money by doing it. In order to accomplish that, I need a certain number of lawyers, because the numbers are what they are. I also have needed lawyers that are qualified to handle more complicated stuff. I can't have 3 lawyers who can handle real complicated cases and still handle everything. So for the past couple of years, there's been a concerted effort in our office to make sure our newer lawyers are getting the experience to get qualified. So I've got 13 or 14 lawyers. Almost everyone can handle almost every kind of case. And in the next year, everyone will. So I won't have anyone that's incapable of handling a difficult case. And we've got a lot of support for them in the office. So it's really exciting. Give us as much work as you want, because we can handle it. The other big goal, of course, is to maintain healthy and happy lawyers and staff. It has been hard finding qualified lawyers. Recently, we've had a very difficult time getting qualified applicants for one particular position. But on the other side of that, really exciting news, we have hired some fabulous people this year. We've got some really great lawyers in the unit. Everyone's excited to be
How
there.
many vacancies do you have in your team?
One.
One.
And we're this close to filling it. But that I've got so few people to pick from, I'm just kind of waiting to see if someone else comes. I have a great person, but waiting to see if I can get one or two more applicants to have some competition. So we're doing great in that respect. I'm really proud of the team. I'm trying to be a decent leader and keep them motivated and productive.
Is that one vacancy, is this Superior Court, or is that across the whole department?
in my
Superior
unit.
Court.
You have other vacancies in other places?
No, not for attorney positions. Yeah, we've been pretty, please, yeah, we've been,
You just lost our legal assistant to Superior Court.
yes. Well, I'll touch upon this in my department update, just in general, but Kevin.
I'm also personally and professionally affected by that move. That's my legal assistant. She's fabulous.
I just knew that, I approved it yesterday.
I saw it come across your desk.
And that's all. We're working hard and having fun, trying to get a lot done for the right amount of money.
How's the pay compared with the prosecutor's office?
Well, we have parity with the prosecutor's office. I think the bigger question is how is the pay compared to other counties, and the largest firm in the state of Washington, the Attorney General's office is right here. So that's another question. Any other questions for Kevin? Okay, I want to give Jose some space here and to lift up his role in the budget team. So Jose is online, and thank you for being here from Alaska. Jose?
You're on mute.
I'm muted. Okay. Once again, good morning. Want to thank the commissioners and everyone else for the opportunity to participate in this meeting from Ketchikan, Alaska. I appreciate that. I wanted to start by highlighting some of the big budget achievements that Patrick have been able to accomplish in 2017 when I was hired into the team. So I was looking at the budget when we started in 2017. Our total general fund budget was $5.5 million. That budget in 2022 increased to $8.5 million. That was a 35% increase in our budget in the last 5-6 years. And also, when we started here in 2017, we had 31 FTEs, general fund FTEs. We are, as of 2023, 45 FTEs, general fund. That's a 31% increase. That does not include the Blade FTEs and the ARPA FTEs are right now in the office. So we have successfully meeting the operational needs of the office. However, this brings me to the challenges that we're experiencing right now in the office and the future that we would like to address in the next biennium. We are having some administrative and fiscal support challenges, and we're basically, honestly, reaching the limit that we can provide support to the office with the resources that we have on both the administrative side and the fiscal side of the department. We have been performing program management, project management that we are not resourced for a number of major new systems and operational resources for the office. That includes eDefender, which was a huge lift for my unit, the fiscal unit, and the administrative unit. Also, we're program management tasked with Uptrust, which is a client test message system that we're right now in the process of implementing. And we're also now facing the challenge of digital evidence transfer, storage, and use by our attorneys and legal support staff. and we are addressing that, and that's something that's going to be probably very important because of the body cams and the car cams that the police and the sheriff's department they are implementing. We also haven't, as we know, TC Connect, the new ERP system is hopefully will be implemented this year. So that's going to be a transition work in that. And as was mentioned by Robin, the ITA funding to me is a concern because we do have some indirect costs, but it's a minor indirect cost. We probably can absorb that with no problem in the current budget. My concern is that we have now eliminated the contract, which we have been doing for many years, and have transferred that work to a direct in-house work with 2 attorneys and a legal assistant. And my fear is that some of that might get lost, and I'm going to be working very hard with the team to make sure that it doesn't. But I want to make sure that we are, we are funded to be able to support those 3 FTEs. But overall, like I say again, thank you to the commissioners and Ramiro and Robin for the exceptional support that you provide to the department when it comes to the fiscal and the budget and the FTE. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Any questions for Jose?
He just made the plug for additional staff that he's gonna be requesting.
Unprompted and unplanned, I will say that, but it's a good segue. The successes of our department is certainly not mine. It is a team. It's the team that you see here, including me and Pagnotta down sitting next to Kevin, all our managers, all our staff, our paralegals, our support staff, all our attorneys providing this community with what I like to think is the very best public defense in the state of Washington in a very challenging time. It's a challenging career in the best of times, and the pandemic has certainly pushed us to the limits, frankly, in terms of what's humanly possible to take. So with that, I'm just going to end here with my department items, the other things in the presentation. Certainly happy to follow up on just some things we're working on this year, but retention has been a challenge. I know you hear from every office and department in the county on the challenges. We're no different. We're not immune, despite really hard efforts to make us the most competitive department and public defender's office in the state. It's a very competitive, cannibalizing, even locally, job market. And we need to continue to stay competitive. What we focus on is controlling our controllables and making it the best work environment. But at the end of the day, some folks are going to move on for more money or for other reasons. Speaking of piggybacking a little bit, some of the things that you'll see us later on this year is with some requests for the board. What we've, as Jose indicated, we have grown the department to serve the community and deliver the finest public defense with your support. And I'll just echo that. I can't. I'm in a lot of meetings around the state with other public defenders' office, and oftentimes I am shocked at the lack of support around the state that I hear from other county commissioners. That is not the case here, and it does not go unappreciated by me and I know our team. So, but with growth comes new complications, and again, meeting the needs of staff in a highly competitive market. So we've gone through a process of strategic planning, of course, for this year, and been able to really re-examine our organizational chart and identify some things that I feel we need to invest in on behalf of the staff and to continue to deliver and meet our mission. So we'll have those conversations during the budget sessions, but we have really grown, as you can see, to meet the caseloads, and that to me is one of the most important things. Now, with some of the things that were mentioned by Jose, with growth comes other needs for the staff. So look forward to having those conversations in budget season. And I think with that, we've got 4 minutes left, and I'm sure you're all tired, but I want to give you some space to ask us any questions that you may have.
I think I'm good. Good.
You guys know I was a public defender for Save Alaska, and our director up there was awesome, and she would, at the conference, she would always talk about human years, dog years, and public defender years. So I know very well, you know, the retention, I mean, as you said, the point you made about even in the best of times, it's a difficult, I felt like I worked in a privileged environment because we had 4 lawyers, senior lawyers in the Fairbanks, Alaska office who had been there for 20 plus years, and they were all crusaders, you know, warriors. But you need that kind of, you know, that leadership to mentor the new lawyers, because there is gonna be a churn. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. There aren't, some people go into the public defense as a career, and some go into, you know, get their feet wet in court and try, and it's a stepping stone to other things. That's just how it works. So in order to make that work, you have to have those senior leaders. And so, you know, I hope that this group can develop that, and I think we have that to some degree. You know, the investigators, you guys are, I mean, we had 10 lawyers, 2 investigators. They were absolute rock stars, and they were just worked to the bone. So how you guys are doing it with 2 investigators at 28, like, I absolutely understand your needs there. So it's my goal to try to find a way to get even more resources on that, however that's possible. It's, you know, sitting in this chair is different, right? So many things, but I definitely hear you when you talk about that part. County Manager?
Oh, I do have a question, just a comment. And I was just reflecting, leading to this briefing for the last 6 years. And when you came on board, Patrick, and what a turnaround of that department. And sometimes we tend to focus just on the dollars and cents. I believe 6 years ago, it was unexpected first budget amendment, an additional $750,000 because it was unexpected expenditures. And here we come, you have a lot of reversion. And I don't want to concentrate just on the dollars and cents again, but it's just on the leadership that you have provided and your team along with it, to really take care of the fiscal elements of your department. There's a lot of unexpected elements that plays a role on the expenditures of your department, but also there's a lot of opportunities to how you put your hands around to it. So kudos to you really and your team. They continue to make your mission paramount, but at the same time be cognizant of the financial elements of the county. So it's just a comment.
No other questions?
Ditto the county manager, because I was here for all that.
Yeah.
So, attitude is everything.
Yeah, now, you know, just the final, I appreciate that. But I think that is more to the point of, you know, investing in our public servants. I appreciate the credit personally. The credit goes to these teams, members here that you see here today, Jose and countless other members of our team, to have better government and to retain those individuals that provide the citizens of Thurston County better government and defining our competitive edge, right? Because, you know, people make all the difference in an organization, and we have fine people, and it's the overwhelming obligation for me to continue to keep and recruit the very best in our office to do this work and have the types of outcomes that we've had along the way. So we're up against it. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Your Honor.
Love the new logo.
Yeah, yep, yep. Thank you guys so much for that. I can tell you that has meant the world to our office. It's been awesome. So if you have any follow-up questions, I'm available. With that, have a great
That
rest of
we're
your day.
adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.